Cold calling for lead gen, scripts that actually work. Cold calling isn't dead, generic calling is. Cold calling for lead gen still works in B2B, but only when you treat it like a precision channel. Across markets, the average cold call to meeting success rate is about 2.3%, which is a healthy reality check for SDR teams benchmarking performance. When you plan for that baseline and build a system around it, the phone becomes a predictable pipeline lever instead of a morale-killing grind. The bigger reason cold calling still matters is buyer behavior. Decision makers will engage when the outreach is relevant and respectful. Research shows 82% of buyers have accepted meetings at least occasionally with sellers who proactively reached out to them. In other words, the opportunity is there. You just don't get it with a feature dump and a "did I catch you at a bad time?" opener. If you manage SDR performance or own outbound pipeline targets, the goal isn't more dials. The goal is better conversations, more meetings held, and more opportunities created, without burning your list or your brand. In this guide, we'll lay out the script frameworks and operating rhythm we use at SalesHive to help teams run cold calling like a modern sales development agency, targeted, measurable, and coachable. Why phone still wins in a digital-first buying journey. Buyers do a lot on their own now, and your scripts need to assume it. Data shows 96% of prospects research before speaking with a sales rep, which is why repeating homepage copy on a call dies fast. The phone works when it adds insight, clarity, or a faster path to a decision, not when it rehashes what they already know. The macro trend is also real. Gartner projected that 80% of B2B sales interactions would occur in digital channels by 2025, which forces outbound teams to be tighter with targeting and messaging. Paradoxically, that makes high-quality calls more valuable because a live conversation creates momentum that digital touchpoints often can't. A great cold calling team uses calls as the conversion moment inside a coordinated outbound sequence, not as a standalone Hail Mary. And yes, people still pick up. Cognism's research shows 32% of prospects will answer a call from a company they haven't spoken with before. And buyer preference data indicates 49% prefer a phone call as the first touch, rising to 57% for C-level and VP buyers. If your team avoids calling entirely, you're voluntarily giving competitors the fastest channel for building trust and booking time. Scripts that convert are frameworks, not monologues. The best scripts function like guardrails. They keep reps on the right road without forcing them to read word for word. When SDRs perform a script, prospects hear a canned pitch and tune out. When SDRs internalize a talk track, they sound like a credible peer. That's especially important in B2B cold calling, where the prospect's first filter is this relevant to my world? Your framework should hit 4 beats consistently: a permission-based opener, a role-relevant insight, 2 to 3 discovery questions, and a clear next step ask. The opener matters most because it determines whether you earn the next 30 seconds. Is now a good time? Often underperforms because it invites the quickest possible no. A stronger approach is a short, bounded permission ask that keeps you in control while respecting their time. From there, lead with outcomes, not features. Prospects don't need a product tour on a first touch. They need a reason to believe you understand a problem worth solving and can quantify impact. The close should sell a 15 to 30-minute conversation, not the platform, and it should feel like a low-friction exchange of benchmarks and fit rather than a high-pressure demo request. Build a core talk track and 3 variants before you scale dials. Before you touch the words, lock the inputs. 1 tight ICP, 1 clean calling list, and 1 reason you're plausibly relevant. Even the best cold calling services can't outperform bad targeting, and broad TAM dialing is how teams end up with low connect rates and worse brand perception. In practice, we recommend aligning on industry, employee range, core pains, and at least one qualifying signal, like tech stack or recent hiring, before your first SDR ever hits the dialer. Next, design your script for how people actually buy today: multi-channel, informed, and busy. Your base talk track should have 3 variants: net new, follow-up, and referral/intro, so reps aren't improvising from scratch. This is also where a cold email agency or LinkedIn outreach services can complement the phone. The call becomes more credible when the prospect has seen your name, message, or insight elsewhere. Finally, keep the talk track simple enough to coach and test. If your script takes 2 minutes before you ask a question, it's too long. If it doesn't earn a next step within the first 90 seconds, it's usually not anchored to a real business problem. Quick note, we're skipping the table in the original article here, but the point stands. Keep scripts tight while still giving SDRs room to sound human. A cold call script should tell your SDR what to accomplish, not what to recite. Follow-up is where most meetings are won. One of the most expensive mistakes we see is quitting after 1 or 2 attempts. Cognism reports that about 93% of conversations happen by the 3rd call attempt, and over 98% by the 5th. That means disciplined follow-up isn't optional. It's the difference between a list that produces pipeline and a list that gets burned without ever getting a fair shot. A strong default for pay-per-meeting lead generation is a 3 to 5 attempt cadence over 2 to 3 weeks, layered with email and LinkedIn touches so the call never feels random. Your script should reference the sequence naturally. For example, the email they received, a relevant insight you shared, or a trigger event you noticed. This is the modern outbound sales agency approach: orchestrated, consistent messaging across channels, and a clear next step on every call. Just as important, the ask should stay small and specific. You're not trying to complete full discovery live, you're trying to confirm fit and book a meeting that actually holds. If your team consistently books meetings that no-show, that's often a positioning problem. Demo me, rather than a value problem. Let's compare your current funnel to what we're seeing across similar teams. We're also skipping the attempt-by-attempt table here, but keep that takeaway front and center. Don't stop early. Objections are predictable. Prepare mini-scripts and move forward. Most cold call objections aren't unique. They're reflexes. Send me an email. We already have a vendor, and not looking right now show up because the prospect is protecting time, avoiding risk, or trying to end the interruption quickly. Your goal isn't to win an argument. It's to acknowledge, reframe, and ask one smaller question that keeps the conversation productive. This is also where many teams accidentally sabotage themselves. Reading scripts word for word makes reps sound like telemarketing, which triggers the prospect's defenses. Leading with your name and company instead of why they should care wastes the first critical seconds. And pitching features instead of problems makes you interchangeable with every other vendor they can find online, especially when 96% of buyers have already done research. We recommend documenting mini-scripts for your top 5 objections inside the playbook so every rep has a confident next line plus a follow-up question. For example, if they say they already have a provider, the productive move is to ask what's working and what they wish were better. Then listen for gaps you can quantify. If they insist on email, send it, but ask what to focus on and propose a time to follow up so the email isn't a dead end. Coach with call reviews and quality metrics, not just dial counts. Cold calling is a high feedback channel, but only if you actually review the calls. Dashboards tell you what happened. Recordings tell you why it happened. Block 60 minutes each week to review a handful of calls across performance levels, tag what good sounds like, and roll those learnings back into the script and onboarding. Metrics matter, but you want the right ones. If your only KPI is 100 dials per day, reps will optimize for speed over relevance, and your connect and meeting rates will suffer. Instead, track the full funnel. Dials to connects, connects to meetings booked, meetings held, and opportunities created, so you can diagnose where the real bottleneck is: data, script, skill, or offer. Use benchmarks to set expectations, then improve systematically. The cross-market average meeting rate of 2.3% is a reasonable baseline, and some organizations attribute as much as 51% of leads to cold calling, which is why high-performing teams treat the phone as essential rather than optional. Whether you're building in-house or working with an SDR agency, the play is the same. Measure, listen, iterate, and tighten targeting over time. We're skipping the funnel metrics table in the original article, but keep tracking the full funnel, not just activity. What to do next? Build in-house or partner with a cold calling agency. If you want a dependable outbound engine, start with the fundamentals: one ICP, clean data, and a talk track built for modern buyers. Then operationalize the cadence, not one-off heroics. Integrate phone with email and LinkedIn, and treat scripts as living documents you refine weekly. This is how the best cold calling companies avoid random acts of outreach and build repeatable pipeline. If building that internally isn't realistic, sales outsourcing can be the fastest path to a mature system, especially when you need list-building services, an outsourced sales team, and consistent coaching all at once. At SalesHive, we've booked 100,000-plus meetings for 1,500-plus clients since 2016, and our program is designed to plug into your CRM with the same metrics discipline you'd expect from a top B2B sales agency. We approach cold calling services and outbound as a coordinated system: targeting, scripts, call reviews, and iteration based on real conversations. Looking forward, the bar will keep rising as buyers spend more time in digital channels and spam filters get stricter across email and voice. That doesn't make B2B cold calling obsolete. It makes it more selective, more insight-driven, and more integrated with a strong outbound sales agency playbook. Whether you hire SDRs internally or outsource sales to an SDR partner, the teams that win will be the ones that sound relevant on the first ring and run follow-up with discipline.